Hello, you beautiful person. If you don't know me, hello, my name is Aya. See, we're besties now. And if you do already know me, I'm so happy to have you back. What a beautiful sunny day it is today. I woke up in a great mood and I thought, what better thing to do than ruin that good mood? Which is the reason why today I will be reacting to 1-star reviews of my absolute favorite books. Now, if there's something I want you to know about me is that I'm a very passionate person and I tend to get really emotionally attached to books. Now, I know that everybody's entitled to their own opinion. If you don't agree with me, your opinion is wrong. Also, I know it doesn't seem like it, but I feel like I'm a very picky person when it comes to like my 5-star reads, which is why you may see on my Goodreads reviews that I loved a book and that I enjoyed it so much and that I only give it like 4 stars. I don't feel like I'm the strictest person out there when it comes to my ratings, but at the same time, I just don't go around throwing 5-star reviews everywhere. With that said, I'm not saying that my 5-star reviews are the best books ever written. I also believe in the right book at the right time, just like I also believe in the right book but wrong time. So I'm pretty sure that the reason why I love these books so much is because I read them when I needed them the most. When I give a book a 1-star out of 5, that means that that book was physically painful to read. And those tend to be the books that I know I should DNF, but for some reason I'm like physically incapable of. A lot of the times I know what I'm getting into, but I still read them anyways, so it's actually my fault. And 5-star reviews for me are basically books that marked me or that changed me as a person. God, I really don't want to do this. Why is it not focusing? I do have a list of favorites on my Goodreads. I think there are like 14 books. They're actually a lot. If you know me, you know what my favorite series is. The Shatter Me series by Dahara Mafi is chef's kiss. I read the series like almost 2 years ago now, and I think about it every day. There's not a single day that goes by that I do not think of the series and the characters. So you guys know how emotionally attached I am. Even though it's like a 5-star series for me, that doesn't mean that I gave every single book 5 stars because there's a lot of books. So the first one is Unravel Me. This person says, wow, and I thought Shatter Me was bad. This one comes with no plot, Juliet pity parties, and most annoying love triangle in the history of love triangles. Also, it's heartwarming to see that the writing style is just as bad as it used to be. Reading this made me realize that, hey, brain cells were overrated. Just thankful for Kenji, my love, my little ray of sunshine. What would I do without you? See, everybody loves Kenji. It's the Kenji effect. I understand. Here's the thing about the Shatter Me series. I never know what to expect when I recommend it to people because it is true that there's a lot of like purple prose. The writing style, you either hate it or you love it. I don't feel like there's anything in between. I personally love the writing style, so I understand why it may bother some people. But if there's one thing that I despise is people saying that Juliet was having pity parties. Like, that girl was abused to no end, and people just expect her to just like come back just like that. Yes, this is a Taylor Swift reference if you were wondering. Wow, this is unbelievably bad. The first one was mediocre, but this one was 10 times worse. First of all, there was barely any plot. The entire book was Juliet being hella overdramatic and angsty and feeling sorry for herself over her powers, and Adam, while everyone else comforted her. I find it funny when people think this way because I feel like everybody just forgets what being 17 is like. This is not directed only to this person. I've seen a lot of people have the same opinion on Juliet and how she's always like crying and complaining. I guess people tend to forget that this is what being 17 is like. I feel like this is a more accurate representation of what a 17-year-old girl is actually like, instead of these like reckless badass teenagers who jump to do something at the first sign of danger. That may be just me though. Alright, let's go to Ignite Me next. I feel like at this point, if you didn't like the first 2 books, I don't know why you're still reading the series, so the reviews on this one should be better. This one says, Kenji carried this series, everyone else sucks, 0.5 stars. Actually, kind of valid. Like, I understand, Kenji is just that guy. He's so likable by everyone. Even people who dislike the series only read it for Kenji. I feel like that says enough. What the hell did I like about the series a year ago? Wish they'd all just die. Die already. Damn. Who hurt you? Who are the people giving this rubbish 5 stars? I am. I'm the person giving this book 5 stars. I love this book so much. I thought it was so fun. It was all about the vibes, all dystopian. I don't know if it was the nostalgia, because the series that got me into reading was The Maze Runner. So when I read Shatter Me in 2023 for the first time ever, I was like, God, I'm finally feeling something after like almost a decade. You could never make me hate this series ever. So the next book in the series that I gave 5 stars is Defy Me. I know that Ignite Me is like the most popular one, but there's nothing that beats Define Me for me. This is book number 5 in the series. Like I said, if you didn't enjoy the other 4 and you're still reading, that's on you. This person said to her, darling, you should have stopped at Ignite Me. And I personally disagree. I've seen a lot of people say that the Shatter Me series should have ended after the first 3 books. And I completely disagree because I feel like the second trilogy adds like so much to the story. It definitely covers a lot of plot holes. Without the second trilogy, I feel like there would have been a lot of things that would have stayed unanswered. I feel like the reason I enjoyed Ignite Me is because I knew that there was a second trilogy. If I finished Ignite Me with the thought that there were no more books, I don't think Ignite Me would be a good book for me. I feel like Ignite Me is a great book in a series, but it is not a good book to end the story. Trust me on that. Also, a lot of people's favorite characters like Kenji, I feel like they would have stayed pretty two-dimensional. They were just like good side characters. I feel like the second trilogy added so much more to that. Warner developed into this character that, you know, he had something that drove him outside of just being Juliet's love interest. I love the second trilogy, and in my opinion, the second trilogy made the Shatter Me series as good as it is today. Kenji's shoulders must hurt from carrying this book. This book is a disgrace to my beloved Shatter Me series. I disagree. I do not understand people who did not like the second trilogy. Also, everybody who was complaining about the writing in the first trilogy, just so you know, I feel like the second trilogy, Tahara Mafi's writing style, like I've said 100 times, I feel like it matures a lot. Like you can tell that she definitely has grown as a person and as a writer, which is why it's so enjoyable for me, I guess. Alright, we're done with the Shatter Me series. I did give the last novella, Believe Me, 5 stars too. Okay, the next book is a very underrated one in my opinion, From Lukov with Love. If you're looking for a slow burn romance book, also sports romance, I am begging you, give this one a try. And when I say slow burn, I'm talking about a slow burn. Book talk will be like, here's some recs, and it'll be the worst book you've ever read. Listen, you guys know how I feel about the book talk hate. I think it's stupid. But like, the girls that get it, and the girls that don't. Nobody said this was the best book ever written. In my opinion, it's a great romance. At 20, people had already been shitting themselves all over him for years. Shitting themselves all over him for years. I understand people criticizing the writing, but in my defense, I'll say this is just one line out of a 500-page book. And it's also like so in character with Jasmine. Like, she's not somebody who speaks elegantly. She has a very short temper, a very aggressive person when talking, and she's also kind of immature, which is the whole point of the book, that she actually wants to become a better person. I understand. I'll let it slide. This person says, DNF, I can't do it. The main character is the most annoying person, and by reading this book, you are stuck in her head 98% of the time. It's almost like that's the whole point. Might sound crazy, I know it may sound crazy, but maybe the whole point is that Jasmine is in fact not a good person, not the nicest person. She just wants to be a better daughter, a better sister, a better friend. I don't know, something to consider, maybe. This was boring ASF. Like I said, it's a slow burn. Like, if you're getting into this book and nobody warned you that it's a slow burn, I understand why you may think this is painful, but as somebody who absolutely loves slow burns, this was the perfect pace for me. I did not get the hype, they just danced on ice. Have you ever watched a pair ice skating program? Do you know, have you never witnessed the chemistry between two athletes who are dancing on ice? Jill, I do not want to hear it. Let's move on, shall we? The next book is Archer's Voice, which in my opinion is also a very underrated book. This person says, I felt nothing. I am in the minority here, but I felt so empty reading it. Nothing about the plot or the characters was convincing. Everything about it was so calculated and juvenile, and I don't mind cliches, but this book takes the cake. It was cheese galore. I love cliches. Me personally, I love cliches, and it was a very emotional story. It made me cry, and I was like, I'll give it 5 stars. I don't care. I don't think I completely understand what they mean by saying that everything about the plot was calculated. I mean, isn't that the whole point? I may be understanding it wrong though. Like, this may be a me thing, by the way. But the reason I love this book so much is essentially because it's just a love story between two people. Small town romance, summer, they both have traumatic pasts. It is a big cliche, and I absolutely love it. Never have I ever read a romance with a straighter face. Real footage of me reading this book. Archer's Voice feels like you are reading someone's diary entry. Is that supposed to be a bad thing? Wish I could turn back time to the good old days when there was no effing book talk to trick me into reading some cheesy ass books about lame one-dimensional characters written by authors who have no idea what they're talking about. Here we have another person acting like they were held at gunpoint to read this book instead of just admitting that maybe this book just wasn't for them. Imagine how tired we are. God, next book, I'm gonna need patience for this because it is the first book in my second favorite series ever. The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, and I know this book gets so much hate and I can't deal with it because that's my baby. I'm a sucker for YA books, and I feel like The Inheritance Games is the best of the best out there in the YA genre. This is just a modern take on the white girl is very special but no one knows why and has to choose between two virtually identical white boys who are both in love with her for some reason. Whatever will she do? Also, I don't care about billionaires, so can someone give me 5 reasons as to why I read this? So, answering your question, I don't know. You chose it, you were here, you knew exactly what you were getting into. Like, the premise of this book is all about the inheritance and the money. Second of all, hey, there's nothing wrong with daydreaming about being YN. Also, I feel like Jennifer Lynn Barnes does a great job at explaining why it's Avery and nobody else. Oh, but then again, I forgot that this is a review of the first book, right? Like, if you haven't read the second or the third book, you're obviously not gonna understand why it's Avery and nobody else. It's not like Avery was just the lucky one out of everybody. And I feel like this is kind of obvious considering the fact that it's a mystery book. And at the end of this book, it's very clear that the mystery is not done, like it's not over. There's still a lot to uncover, but then again, I feel like I'd be asking too much of people to maybe consider that, hey, maybe I'm complaining about something that gets explained in the next book. How crazy does that sound? Guys, I might be wrong, but I think this person did not like the book. This person said, sorry, I was just bored, and I can't even be mad at this because I do the same thing. I don't think I've ever read a book where I care so little about all of the characters. None of them had much depth or any sort of development. Their dynamics were bland, and while reading this, I kept just hoping for it to be over. Like I said, I'm keeping in mind that this is a review of the first book. Like, I kind of understand where this person is coming from. It is true that when I finished the first book, one of my first thoughts was, I hope she keeps developing these characters, and I hope the relationships between each character gets developed a little bit more in the next 2 books. Like, I remember that was a thought that I had, but I also remember thinking, this is the first book, so it'd be unfair to analyze all of this without reading more about them. But I understand. I get it. I don't get why this book is rated so high. It was just so basic and annoying that I couldn't stand it. The characters were so dumb. I'm clearly very disappointed. I feel like instead of insulting the book, you're kind of insulting me. Because if the characters were dumb and they were able to figure everything out that happens in the book, I could not keep up. If the characters are dumb, what does that make me? At first I tried to solve the mystery with them, but at one point I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna sit back. Let them do all the hard work because I cannot do this. Also, what's wrong with basic? Sometimes basic is all you need. I could go into every single The Inheritance Games book, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna jump into the next books. God, Happy Place by Emily Henry. This book is everything to me. Look at me, look at my mouth when I say this. Everything. And I remember being so nervous before reading it for the first time in 2024 because even people who love Emily Henry's books were saying that this was her worst work so far. I got so nervous because I had already bought the book, but when I finally read it, let me tell you, I did not understand at all what people were talking about. They kept saying that the book was boring. Meanwhile, it had me crying at 5 a.m. Insane behavior. When I die, I want Emily Henry to lower me into my grave so she can let me down one last time. That's foul. It was funny, I'm not gonna lie though. Let's talk about names for a sec, because where does she find these names? His name was Windham. Wind-effing-ham. Hey, I'd rather have Windham than have another James, and have another Alex, Rhysand? Come on, you cannot tell me that Windham is where you draw the line. No offense, but are you guys lying? No, we're not, Nina. Okay? We're just all slaves to nostalgia and how summer makes us feel. Samantha says, DNF and popular opinion, you don't need to be so descriptive with every other word. And I disagree, because I feel like that's what makes Emily Henry's writing so distinctive. It was one of the things that actually caught my attention the most when I read Happy Place for the first time, is how descriptive she is with every single feeling and every single emotion. I feel like that's why it stuck with me so much. It's so specific that you know exactly what feeling she's describing, and in my opinion, you need to be a very talented writer to do that. But that's just me though. This next book, I kind of don't want to look at 1-star reviews of it, because the other books, fine, I get it. You didn't like it, whether it's because of the writing, whether it's because of the plot, the characters, I don't mind. But the people who complain about this next book tends to be from a very, let's call it controversial point of view. They do not tend to hate on it because of the writing. They tend to hate on it because apparently it's racist towards non-minorities, which tells me that you missed the entire point of the book. And if you have still not guessed which book I'm talking about Babel by R.F. Kuang. But I'm still gonna be looking at 1-star reviews of this thing. Hopefully it doesn't make me too mad. God. Not a single review on this book is short. They all write the entire Bible. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm not reading all that. All I'm gonna say is this: I'm too effing dumb for this. Hey, valid. I thought the same thing, if I'm being honest. But at the same time, it was one of the reasons why I enjoyed it so much. It was because it was challenging. Like, I was reading it and I was like, God, I'm so dumb. I need to make like a bigger effort to understand it. And I don't know, that made it more enjoyable for me. But I understand why some people may not feel the same way. The most unpopular opinion I've ever had: this book is beautifully written, has deep and intricate conversations on so many important topics and world issues, but for me, I was just very bored. I haven't read a lot of dark academia, but it's definitely not a genre that I'm the biggest fan of in general, so take what I say with a grain of salt. I actually understand, because this book was sold to me like this cute little dark academia of friends and their adventures at Oxford, and when I started reading it, even just like 5 pages in, I was like, this is definitely not that. This is definitely not that, and I was terrified because I was like, I don't know what to expect of this book anymore. And in my case, I ended up loving it. Like, it ended up exceeding my expectations, but I understand how that may not be the case for everybody. All right, I'm giving up on Babel reviews because everybody just writes the entire Bible. I'm no exception, by the way. I did the same thing, and I understand why people write like extensive reviews of this book, but I just did not feel like it, okay? I'm feeling lazy, sue me. The next book is the first in one of my absolute favorite trilogies ever, and it's one of my biggest comfort books, Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. I can already smell the comments about Evangeline being too immature and whiny from kilometers away, because nobody likes an FMC who's not willing to hold a dagger to anybody's neck for some reason. This person says, I don't think Jax brushes his teeth. What does that even mean? This is terrible. Worst book I've ever read. Need the sequel immediately. I'm confused. But at the same time, I kind of know what they mean. Like, it's happened to me before. I wish I was illiterate. This person said, not enough Jax. And to be honest, I agree. We never get enough Jax. There's never enough of Jax. But to give it a 1-star review just because there's not enough Jax, I'm sure they're being sarcastic. Another one with vampires and apples. Yeah. Oh, and he plundered her mouth is not appealing, let alone exuding sexiness. I disagree. I believe there's nothing that Jax can say or do that is not sexy. A fever dream plot with few cool concepts that are not explored, and a romance that wasn't strong or compelling enough to carry the story. I'm gonna be completely honest. I believe that people who comment stuff like this are the kind of people who genuinely don't enjoy like slow burn stories. I'm not saying that these people only like insta-love kind of stories, but I've come to the conclusion that there's definitely more people than I realized that genuinely do not like slow burn. And in my opinion, it's something very charismatic about trilogies like this that take 3 books for the FMC and the MMC to finally end up together. Alright, I could react to the rest of the books in the trilogy and other series, but I'm not gonna do that because this video would be too long. I definitely have more 5-star reads, but these are like my absolute favorites, so you guys let me know in the comments if you would ever like a video of me reacting to 1-star reviews of books that I like in general. They don't have to necessarily be my 5-star ratings. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. I always welcome your comments. Follow me on my other social media platforms. They're all linked down in my description. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll see you next week.